hour, we'll dive into today's top stories, including the release of a birthday letter allegedly signed by President Trump and sent to Jeffrey Epstein in 2003. I'm Ernie Manous.
And I'm Celestia Sherman. We'll also be joined by Joel Berner, the senior economist at Realtor.com, who will discuss how Houston area homes will be impacted by climate change.
And I'm Frank Billingsley. Plus, Texas-based executive wine entrepreneur and author Eric D. Sanchez will discuss his mystery book, Killer Vintage, a West Texas wine thriller.
And we want to hear from you. Give us a call or send us a text at 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. You can also watch us on YouTube by going to houstonpublicmedia.org and clicking the big orange banner.
Hello Houston is made possible in part by founding sponsors John Bradshaw and Kathy Sanders, and by gifts from listeners like you.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Windsor Johnston. Israel says it's carried out a strike in the capital of Qatar targeting senior Hamas leaders. There was no immediate confirmation of casualties. NPR's Daniel Estrin has more from Tel Aviv.
This is the first time Israel has carried out a strike in Doha. It marks an escalation in Israel's war against Hamas. Israel's military says the Hamas leaders targeted were directly responsible for Hamas's October 7th, 2023 attack on Israel and have since been, quote, orchestrating and managing the war with Israel. It came as Hamas took claim for a shooting attack in Jerusalem yesterday that killed 6 Israelis. Qatar called the strike a cowardly attack on residential buildings housing Hamas political leaders. Qatar has hosted Hamas political leaders for years in coordination with the U.S. to establish lines of communication, according to a Qatari official who spoke on condition of anonymity to discuss the sensitive issue. Daniel Estrin, NPR News, Tel Aviv.
Revised government data show the U.S. job market is looking far weaker than expected. NPR's Maria Aspen reports the Bureau of Labor Statistics published its annual update today.
U.S. employers added 911,000 fewer jobs than initially counted during the 12 months ending in March. The updated figures are preliminary and routine, but still sobering. They show the labor market was likely weakening far more than expected under the last year of President Biden's term and the first months of President Trump's second presidency. The federal government regularly revises its monthly jobs numbers as more complete data comes in. But this year's revision comes as Trump has increasingly politicized the data and the agency that tracks it. Maria Aspen, NPR News, New York.
New national test scores are out today. These measure 8th graders' science skills and 12th graders' math and reading abilities. NPR's Sequoia Carrillo reports.
These test scores are part of the National Assessment for Educational Progress, also known as the Nation's Report Card, and they come in the wake of massive cuts to the U.S. Education Department. Math scores for students in the 12th grade dropped 3 points from the previous test in 2019, while 8th graders followed a similar pattern with a 4-point average drop in science. In both science and math, drops happened across all achievement levels, so low and high-performing students dropped this cycle. Reading scores also dipped for nearly all 12th graders compared to the last test. But when you compare these scores to the first Nation's Report Card for 12th grade reading more than 30 years ago, today's average score is 10 points lower. Sequoia Carrillo, NPR News.
Stocks are trading mixed on Wall Street at this hour. The Dow is up 49 points, the Nasdaq down 10. You're listening to NPR News from Washington.
Live from News 88.7 in Houston, I'm Alexandra Hart. Liberty County officials have identified the man accused of shooting and killing at least one person at a bar over the weekend. 5 others were injured, some of whom were released from the hospital. Police are looking for 32-year-old Jose Cantillo. They say he shot the 6 people early Sunday after returning to a bar he had been drinking at. The suspect remains on the run, but his wife has been charged with evidence tampering. Authorities think he may have been heading towards New Orleans or Atlanta. The Harris County Commissioner's Court is expected to finalize potential cuts to county departments and services during a special meeting on Tuesday. News 88.7's Sarah Gruno has more.
Discussions on the county's looming multi-million-dollar budget deficit will resume on Tuesday following a series of budget hearings last week. During a State of the County address on Friday, Harris County Judge Lena Hidalgo said that the county has spent more money than it has after commissioners approved a more than $100 million pay raise increase for deputies earlier this year.
So now we're $200 million in a deficit. And so what do? So, of course, we have to cut things. That's one option. And the other option is we have to somehow reduce that deficit.
On Tuesday, county commissioners are expected to also vote on a request to assemble a grievance committee that will evaluate the salaries of elected officials. I'm Sarah Gruno, News 88.7.
Governor Greg Abbott is reported to be getting ready to issue an executive order aimed at regulating hemp-derived consumable THC products. The Texas Tribune reports the order would set a minimum age of 21 to buy THC products, require ID checks, set distance requirements between retailers and schools, tighten labeling and testing, and raise fees from retailers. The framework is roughly patterned on alcohol sales. None of the provisions are confirmed, nor is there a timeline, but the Tribune reports an announcement is expected soon. It's currently 81 degrees here on the University of Houston campus, sunny today with a high near 90. Tonight, clear with a low near 70 degrees. I'm Alexandra Hart, News 88.7.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Charles Schwab, offering investors choices like full-service wealth management, advice, investing, and trading on Thinkorswim. Learn more at schwab.com. And from the Doris Duke Foundation.
Live from the University of Houston, it's Hello Houston, an open forum on today's biggest stories affecting Houston and beyond. Call now, 713-440-8870, or let us know your thoughts on today's topics by emailing us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now here's your host for Hello Houston, Ernie Manous, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
Good morning, Houston.
All the red lights are on the mics.
We're back in business.
I'm sorry, Frank.
Baby.
We can't hear you.
We're on the go. Shut up. We're on the go. Here we go. Awesome.
Good morning. Welcome to Hello Houston. If you are listening to us on the radio, welcome. You can also watch us on YouTube. We always mention that. We're doing a lot more of that. Houston Matters is now up and streaming live during their hour at 9 a.m. And we come to you from 11 to 1, live streaming. Of course, everything is archived on our YouTube channel. Just look for HoustonPublicMedia.org. When you're watching us live, that chat group over there on YouTube, a lot goes on there. If you've got comments, thoughts, questions, concerns, you can share them with that vibrant community. And also you can just give us a call, 713-440-8870.
And we already have our friends on YouTube. Judy Kraft says good morning. Good morning, Judy, and good morning to everybody else joining us.
We're a club.
It's our club. It's our crew.
So like the
Club
Breakfast Club.
Hello Houston.
Yes,
I like
it's
that.
true. Hey, talk about good morning. How was that this morning? 65
Beautiful.
degrees.
I don't know why I feel like I should thank you for these things, but I do. I want to say thank you for giving us this wonderful weather. Frank.
It really is nice to have a September morning like that. It'll warm back up a little bit by Thursday especially, but we have another one tonight. It's going to be a lovely evening, and guess what?
What?
The International Space Station is going to be flying right over the city tonight at 7:53.
It'll be clear enough to see?
It's going to be clear, beautiful, cool, and the direction is from south-southwest to north-northeast, which means it goes right over. Because sometimes it's at the horizon, you can barely see it. But this is going to be a stellar show. I don't know if you've ever seen it. It looks like a shooting star. 6 minutes it will take to push across the sky. So just look up at 7:53.
That's what I was going to ask again.
Set your alarm right now. Give yourselves a 10-minute notice. Get grandma out of her chair and go outside.
Beautiful.
And I've seen it so many times, but every time is almost just a little miracle. Because I've seen a few shooting stars in my life. I haven't seen a lot. I know some people are really into meteor showers. So I haven't seen a whole lot of celestial things like this.
Except if you go to the hobby, sits right next to you.
If you go to the Hobby Center and you're sitting in the Hobby Center and you look up at the dome in the Hobby Center, they have a shooting star once every 15 minutes. It flies across the dome,
really?
even during the shows. Yeah,
that's fun.
You just have to lean back. You'll see it.
Anyway, the ISS tonight, 7:53.
And today is September 9th.
It is.
2025. And we're
9925.
9925.
Sort of has a slant rhyme going, doesn't it?
It does.
I like that.
I did too.
Well, on today's show, we're going to talk about a whole lot of things that make September 9th great. Like, for example, the topics on today's show. Everything from private equity and energy up through climate attack on our homes. That's going to be kind of fascinating. A Texas wine thriller is coming up.
We're going to get murder and wine all in one bucket.
And then we're going to go on a cruise because we got cruising. We're going to talk about cruising
Clarkson
coming up
Rosel,
later.
who's delightful. He's a friend of mine, and he's going to tell us all about. He does a lot of these singles cruises, but he knows all about cruises.
Yeah.
But I didn't even know there was really such a thing. I guess
there's like cruise
course.
culture.
There's a cruise for everyone.
Yes,
right?
and there's real cruise culture out there.
But we need guidance. It's like a safari in Africa. You can't just show up and just say, "Okay, I want to have fun." It really helps if there's like a cruise guide.
Yeah, my very first cruise, my friend Jerry Jaggers, you know Jerry.
Of course.
He had to have us all for a dinner to explain to us how cruises work because he was the one who had been on so many. And the only thing I took from it was that you need, and I don't know why I still remember this, 2 pair of underwear for every day you're on the cruise.
Oh, Lord.
That was the thing he wanted us all to know. I don't know why.
I was
but
not expecting
that is what he told us. So I always pack for a cruise. 7-day cruise, 14 pair of underwear. I don't know why.
All right. So we're going to get right into the top headlines today. Thanks for joining us on Hello Houston. Democrats in Congress have released a note allegedly signed by U.S. President Donald Trump and sent to Jeffrey Epstein for his 50th birthday in 2003. Democratic members of the committee posted a copy of the alleged letter, which features a drawing of a woman's body, on X on Monday. The White House said President Trump did not draw this picture and he did not sign it. When the Wall Street Journal published details of the alleged note in July, Trump said it was, quote, a fake thing, unquote, and denied writing it. These are not my words, not the way I talk. Also, I don't draw pictures. That is what President Trump said before launching legal action against the newspaper. After Democrats released the note on Monday, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said President Trump's legal team will continue aggressively to pursue litigation. The signed note posted on X features several lines of text, with the final line reading, "Happy birthday, and may every day be another wonderful secret." What are your thoughts on the B-Day message? Do you believe the Epstein files, if they exist, should be released? You can give us a call or send us a text at 713-440-8870 and go.
Where's Encyclopedia Brown when you need him?
I have so many thoughts on this one. Well, first of all, just a couple things. The talk about those are not my words, not what I use. They've analyzed what word usage was, and those are words that he has used repeatedly. They also looked at the signature. The reason the signature looks slightly different, it's just Donald. It's not Donald Trump. When they've gone, both, I think it's the Wall Street Journal and CNN have both gone and analyzed his signature when he just signs his name in a more informal way. The signatures match. It looks exactly like his. And when the White House made their statement, Caroline Leavitt, and she said what she said, part of that was that you didn't read was she said, well, that proves that it was fake. Nothing about it proves it's fake. It's just more fuel for the fire. I've got more, but Frank, I'll let you give your
2003 was when it was written for his 50th birthday. He was born on January 20th, 2003. So this was the timing of Epstein's 50th birthday. And I was looking at, first of all, you're going to assume it was written in 2003, right? I mean, you could prove that through an ink analysis, but let's just assume, for the sake of argument, it's authentic. Right. Someone wrote it in 2003. Well, The Apprentice began in 2004. Not that Donald Trump wasn't famous in 2003. People knew who he was. Yeah. But the idea of someone forging this note and saying, you know what, I'm going to fake a Donald Trump birthday card to someone named Jeffrey Epstein so that in 22 or 3 years, we can just pull it out of the files and use it against him. Right. That's just too much to believe. So I just don't. I believe he wrote it. I believe they were friends. There's photographic evidence that they were very chummy with each other. And he wrote him a birthday note. Does it prove anything beyond that? It doesn't. The whole file needs to be released, and then we'll know a whole lot more.
I'll go so far as to say he may not have written it. Because I could very easily see Donald Trump telling someone in his office to write something or someone, and he just signed his name to it. I'm fine with that too.
But the language, the
it
biggest
felt
secret.
Too intimate.
But what it says is damning. But it is typed. It's not a handwritten note. It's just the signature at the bottom. And the doodle, I mean, I don't know, maybe someone more clever put it together. But
again, 713-440-8870. What are your thoughts on the B-Day message? Do you believe the Epstein files,
the B-Day message,
if they exist, should be released? And we have Colby from Katie on the line. Colby, welcome to Hello Houston. What is your comment or question?
Well, I'd like to. There's a lot to unpack here on this thing.
Oh, yes, there is.
I'll try to be brief, but regarding the content. The suggestive, there's more to this life than having everything and having, considering who the message is addressed to, and the outline of what appears to be a very young woman. There's plenty of dots to connect there. And I know that this was 2003, this is about a year before the beginning of their fallout when they were competing for the same mansion. And I think it was 2007 was when ultimately Epstein was kicked out of Mar-a-Lago. But so there's that. A couple other dots that, people may need reminders about is that Donald Trump uses the same attorney, Alan Dershowitz, that Jeffrey Epstein used. And he also had his first pick of labor secretary was Acosta. And this was the prosecuting attorney who gave Epstein the sweetheart deal where he managed to dodge sex trafficking charges.
Okay,
Colby,
a lot there.
Yeah, thank you for your comments on that. Just a few points in there, too, that a lot of this stuff is alleged, and we need to know more, and that Colby is a caller, not an authority on the issue, so keep that in mind as we listen to his comments. But, a lot of it is very thought-provoking.
And we did receive a text that says, release the files. He's just doing his usual Russian disinformation tactics, denial, deflection, distraction, and dismay. He showed us already how much this freaks him out. He did this. It's all about it's all out in the public. Again, that was a text that we received. 713-440-8870.
Okay, I'm going to step a little bit away from the letter itself, but staying in this whole story. And just curiosity's sake, I'm throwing this theory out there that I've been working on in my own head, that Trump may not have been involved in the nefarious doings of Epstein. He may not have been with underage women. We've seen nothing that connects him directly to that. We know he's connected to Epstein. It was said by the Speaker of the House in a comment that some people have taken to mean a lot more, that Trump was an FBI informant on it. And that's kind of a theory that's out there now, is that, Trump was just being friends with Epstein because he was working for the FBI and he was going to bring him down. Add this into your thoughts. What if the fact of what happened is Epstein and Trump are friends? They have a falling out over property or over employment situation, which Trump has implied it was about stealing employees from him. Trump gets angry and rat-finks on his close friend and says, FBI, you need to look into him and see what he's really doing. Like a really vindictive way to attack back to someone who was your friend. That's what's in the files that Trump doesn't want to come out, that he was such a turncoat on a friend because they had a dispute over property or a personnel issue. And he tore down a friend of his so extreme and called the FBI on him. That's what I think is in the Epstein files that Trump doesn't want people to see, because there supposedly is evidence that he did alert authorities of Epstein, that he was kind of one of but he wasn't working for the FBI in the traditional sense. What do you think of that theory?
I think it would be wise of him to release the files and let us see that. Because I think maybe people would say, well, he was just being a justice carrier in this situation. I think it would be easier to squirm out of that than to squirm out of this. because this language, you can always wish anybody you want happy birthday, and the phrase is usually happy birthday. I hope you have
happy birthday. Hope you have a wonderful day. Many more to
many
come.
Happy returns. You don't say, may every day be another wonderful secret.
We did receive a text. Personally, I believe the whole Epstein story is a huge waste of time. What are we hoping to get out of it, knowing that Trump had the Congress and Supreme Court in his back pocket? Again, 713-440-8870. My thought on it is, at the end of the day, there were young women at that time, young girls who were sexually abused and taken advantage of by very powerful people. And I hope that one day that those women will get justice. And that is, at the end of the day, at the bottom of the line, file, no file, whatever it is, again, young women were taken advantage of. And we have a president in office right now that could bring justice to them. And that is what I would hope would happen.
Yeah. Why
won't
he do that?
A birthday card, whether he was friends with him. You know what? There are times in your life where you have friendships that as you grow older, you realize that was not maybe my best decision. That was maybe I was doing things in that time of my life that I didn't make the best decisions. Fine. But if you can bring justice to a group of young women that were taken advantage of when they were young girls, there should be justice for them.
How do you propose he do that?
It's complex. Release the files.
Right.
Put it out there.
Well, my biggest problem is
the reason they don't want to release the files is because there are names that are, and potentially his own name. I don't know. I don't know what President Trump's influence was during that time. I don't know what was happening. Right. But what I can say is he has an opportunity to bring some type of justice. And everything is nuanced.
Can't the girls release the names?
I believe they have. I mean,
they finger pointed.
They have.
Certainly Epstein was apparently very guilty.
Yes.
But others, there are other famous people.
The story is that they are fearful of it because they are such powerful people. The lawyers of the individuals who were the victims, as I understand, and if I'm reporting this correctly, do have lists of names. But it's employee-client privilege, so they can't release them. I
believe when they've gotten close to it, they've been come after from a financial standpoint as well.
Right. And so there's issue there. I agree with you. I don't understand exactly why, if you have been, and some of these women have stepped out into the public eye and are being a voice to it. Last week, I think 6 of them had meetings with Congress. Why they don't come out and say the names. They did go after Prince Andrew with one person going after him.
Who she later took her own life.
Right. So I don't know if the concern is for their own safety, if this is at an echelon of power and influence that it scares them too much to say anything. I am surprised nothing has leaked in a grouping of names. It seems very convenient that there are 2 people that are accused, Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein. Ghislaine is saying nothing happened and Epstein has died.
Right.
So it seems very hard to imagine those 2 individuals could have done as much damage as was done and influenced as many people's lives. My biggest problem, and it goes back to what Celeste was saying, is the play by the president of saying things like it's a hoax. Yes. You can say it's a hoax all you want. There were women whose lives were damaged because of these individuals.
And they are coming out and saying, it was not a hoax. This happened to me.
Right.
And it sets a precedence culturally that women cannot, we don't take women's words for things. They've come out and they're saying, this happened to me.
Yeah, Ghislaine Maxwell is serving time now in a much more convenient prison, but for this crime. Right. Mm-hmm. So who did these crimes? Somebody did. And to say it's a hoax is just so insulting, and that's even too gentle a word, to the victims of this. Right. And so I think there needs to be stronger language. I think the White House needs to stop pretending nothing happened. And what it ends up leading people to believe is that there must be a smoking gun there. That's why Trump doesn't want anything out. But if there isn't, release it. And if there is, then justify or find a way to explain your behavior in this situation. We still have not seen any concrete evidence that ties the president to the sexual abuse.
Correct.
We do see connection with him and Epstein. And so if they had a friendship, as the old saying, who knew what and when did they know it?
Yeah, we have a call waiting. I do want to say we had a text that suggests that we have a pedophile sympathizer in the presidency. So there's no, like you say, there's nothing connecting him to that, but he seems to be protecting Epstein by not releasing the file. So whoever texted that, I'll give him credit for that. Mike is on the line from West Houston. Hi, Mike. Welcome to Hello Houston. What's up?
Thanks for hosting me briefly. I suggest that everything we've heard so far certainly has merit, but I want to put out two thoughts. One is the well-documented conduct of Mr. Trump and his disdain for the law whenever it doesn't suit him. And second, I suggest that the Epstein business, all of it, is a distraction from the far more serious harm that is going on in the background and which should attract a lot more attention than it does. Thank you.
Okay. Let me read the full context of this text. Okay. Democrats and Republicans may be divided, but I feel that we are united with not wanting a pedophile sympathizer to be president. He releases the files if he's innocent. The fact that he isn't releasing them is suspicious.
Right.
Again, 713-440-8870.
Keep in mind, too, that the president's approach to all topics, be it the most mundane to the most serious, is deny, deny, deny. So I hope people don't read too much into it, because this is his pattern of behavior on all issues.
True.
Everything is a lie. Everything is fake.
Unless it suits him.
Then
he takes credit
We
for
had
it.
the largest attendees at my inauguration,
Right.
and you can count it. The facts don't always match the rhetoric, and it doesn't matter. It's from the most simple to the most serious. So I think sometimes people put too much emphasis on the fact he's not releasing stuff here. He's saying it, he's denying it, because he denies everything.
Right.
It's his behavior.
I'm sad we didn't get to our next topic.
What's our next topic?
The Phillies situation.
We'll
try to come back to it. But
in summing it up, it was that woman who wanted the ball, and the dad got the ball and gave it to his kid. We'll talk about it later, but it's a great story.
Coming up on Hello Houston, more than $12 trillion worth of U.S. homes are at a severe risk from climate-related threats. And Houston is right near the top of that list. We'll talk about it next. This is News 88.7. Stay with us.
With federal support gone, Houston Public Media needs a stronger foundation for the future. The Houston Public Media Resiliency Fund is our response to ensure this service remains strong, stable, and community-powered. Your gift today helps us stay on the air tomorrow and the day after that. Give now to the Resiliency Fund at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 800-364-8300.
I want to make a movie about this.
The Arts Hour brings you film.
The themes in it are so far ahead of their time.
Books.
The detail is amazing.
Art.
There's all the personal stuff.
Theatre.
Lots of singing and dancing and colours.
Music.
The dance floor is made for dancing.
And everything in between.
I want it to be exciting.
That's the Arts Hour with me, Nikki Beatty.
I really identified with it.
From the BBC.
The Arts Hour, Friday nights at 9 on News 88.7.
Support comes from Pearland, Texas, a community with a variety of living options, from new construction, mature neighborhoods, and urban living, designed for any lifestyle. More at pearlandedc.com/inspiration. Pearland, inspiration lives here.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from the Elizabeth D. Rockwell Center on Ethics and Leadership, presenting How to Break Up with Your Phone, a lecture with author Catherine Price on September 18th at the University of Houston. More at uh.edu/hobby.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from Certa Pro Painters, offering residential and commercial painting services, from color consultations to full project management. Estimates and more at CertaPro.com. Support comes from UT Health Houston, home to McGovern Medical School and Dr. Charles Cox, who is focused on reversing brain damage with his patient's own stem cells. More about the many faces of UT Health Houston at uth.edu/manyfaces.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on any of today's topics, call 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now back to Ernie Manous, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
A new report from Realtor.com paints a troubling picture for homeowners in Houston and beyond. More than $12 trillion worth of U.S. homes are at severe risk for climate-related threats, and Houston is right near the top of that list. According to the data, every single home in the Houston metro area faces extreme hurricane wind risk, and nearly $100 billion in local real estate is vulnerable to severe flooding. Rising insurance costs and tightening coverages are only adding fuel to the fire. So what does this mean for Houston's housing market, home buyers, and the future of living in one of America's largest cities? Joining us now is Joel Berner, the senior economist at Realtor.com, to walk us through the findings. And if you have a question for Joel, we welcome you to Hello Houston. If you would like to join that conversation, give us a call, 713-440-8870. So, Joel, talk to us a little bit about the connection between extreme weather and real estate and how they impact each other just as a whole.
Absolutely. So what we've learned is that the climate risk is no longer tomorrow's problem. It really is a clear and present danger and a clear and present impact on homeowners and prospective home buyers. It's something that as a prospective home buyer, you need to take into account for when looking to buy a home. It's not just the cost of the home, the principal and interest on your payment. It's the insurance cost. And Houston ranks 10th in the country when it comes to insurance costs as a percentage of home values. A little over 1.5% of a home's value is what goes into the median insurance premium every year. So it's a real expense. It makes home ownership more difficult, and it's something that everyone needs to be conscious of when buying a home or maintaining a home that they already own.
Help me a tiny bit here, and then we can get back into the more depth of what you're here to talk about. But insurance costs. I keep hearing, insurance companies are deciding not to cover this house or that type of house or where it's located house. What are they free to do? Is there anything that regulates that and says if you're an insurance company, you must make insurance available to certain homes? Or are they free to decide this is too high a risk?
They're free to decide that a risk is too high for them to offer coverage in certain areas. And in California, there's the FAIR Act, which is a last resort insurance for homes in California. And what we've seen during the wildfires of recent years is that state-run program has had more applicants and more coverage than ever. We don't have something quite the same on that level in Texas, but insurance companies, simply if they can't make the math work, they won't.
So do these insurance companies look at it so specifically to say, well, a house in Houston is not likely to be destroyed by a wildfire, so therefore we won't offer wildfire insurance, or it'll be a minimal cost for that? Probably not earthquake insurance is necessary, certainly avalanche insurance. I mean, do they parse it down and say, okay, but hurricanes and floods and tornadoes, that we have to really jack up the prices because those are real threats?
Absolutely. That all gets baked into the premium. And a lot of times flood coverage is a separate line item for insurance coverage. So it's really important to take note of what your base insurance package offers and whether you need to go ahead and add on the additional flood insurance or just increase that part of your premium. And an interesting finding from this study was that a lot of the flood mandated places that are mandated to carry flood insurance by FEMA doesn't have complete coverage over all the places with flood risk. And so we found, based on the data that we collect, that there's a lot of missing coverage when it comes to flood coverage. This is less the case in Houston because a lot of Houston is covered under the FEMA boundaries. But in different parts of the country, for one example is Western North Carolina. A lot of that was not in FEMA designated areas for flood insurance. But when Hurricane Helene came through, there was obviously terrible flooding in that area, and a lot of people were not covered.
But, as we're looking at this report, Houston made it on the total value of homes with severe or extreme flood risk. They also made it on wind risk, as well as highest insurance burden. So where does that leave people in Houston when we're almost on every list when it comes to extreme weather?
Yeah, it's certainly difficult, and it certainly is a challenge for homeowners. It just adds to the issues that we've seen for affordability in home ownership already. With prices still high from the intense run up in 2021 and 2022, with mortgage rates still high, people are having a real affordability issue, and insurance coverage on top of that just makes it even more difficult. So it's something that needs to be taken into account by homeowners and prospective home buyers. And when you're budgeting for a new home, make sure you cover your insurance coverage in making a budget to see whether you can afford a home in a certain area based on the risks there and based on the estimated insurance costs.
We started talking a little bit about whether or not an insurance company chooses to insure you or not. If insurance companies opt not to insure because areas are prone to this kind of damage that we're talking about, if I understand correctly, too, oftentimes you cannot get a loan to purchase a house if you can't get insurance on that piece of property. Long term, what could this mean for vast areas of our city if they're in high risk areas and they can't owners can't get loans to buy these properties? Where are we headed?
Yeah, we're headed toward potentially a situation where it's unaffordable to live in these places. You're absolutely right. A lot of times to get a mortgage, you need an insurance qualification, insurance coverage ahead of time to get approved by a company before you get a loan on the home. And so it means that in some areas that have been built up in floodplains or built up in places exposed to hurricane wind risk, it won't be possible for people to get loans there, and home values will fall in those areas just because it's impossible to afford owning a home there. And so if you can't get a loan and you can't get insurance, then those home values will fall. And so what's really important is that as we continue to expand in Texas and in Houston specifically, that we build in areas that are more resilient to those climate risks. Don't build in floodplains. Don't build where hurricane wind risks are high, but instead focus on building in areas that are more sustainable. So that needs to be a focus for builders and developers going forward.
But as we build these new areas, it shifts what is considered floodplains and wind risk because of the concrete and the rechanging of the topography.
Absolutely, and that gets factored in to what the insurance companies look at. The insurance companies have the best data in the business on this. They know exactly how these things are interconnected, and they will jack up your prices if things change and you become more exposed to these types of risks. So not only is it important for builders and developers to be thinking about this, but community leaders and local governments and even the federal government and FEMA to be constantly updating and constantly reassessing so that we've got the most accurate and up-to-date information on who is exposed and how much.
Joel, one of the advantages of the fact that we've been facing these climate changes for 20 years now is that we have seen extreme weather in this country, especially the last 10 years. So there is a way, it's not impossible, there is a way to build better and stronger. We have seen houses that have survived the wildfires because they were built properly. You can put metal roofs on a home and you will probably not sustain nearly as much wind damage because the roof won't be lost during a hurricane. Hail will not penetrate a metal roof. You can build a lot of your homes up so that if they're in a flood, and we see this in Houston, you go over to the Heights and look at where these houses are built. They're 6 feet off the ground and it looks beautiful. It's not like on stilts. It's just a grade. So if home builders, and I know it costs more, but when you factor in what does it do to the loan, what does it do to the insurance costs, it may well be worth it for these builders to say, I'm going to build you a house that will, as much as possible, withstand climate change.
You're exactly right. There's a lot of things that can be done, but they all cost money. And when homes are already at a point where they're so unaffordable, adding to the price of a new home makes it more difficult to find buyers. So it's a little bit of a risk. Builders are kind of, on one hand, want to deliver affordable inventory that they can sell easily. But if it gets to the point where those homes can't be insured, then essentially they don't have the value that they thought they had at all. So investing in those types of advanced construction methods is a great way to mitigate some of these risks and ensure that people can be insured. for lack of a better term. So I think that's really important. And we see really great new technology coming along in the home construction industry with 3D printed homes made out of concrete that can withstand hurricane force winds. And those homes are not cheap, but they're becoming cheaper as we advance the technology. So things will get better, but builders are smart and have an eye toward the future, and they need to stay that way.
But as we know that, about the real estate industry being a vulnerable industry to extreme weather, we know that extreme weather is common now. I haven't heard what type of revisions lenders and insurance companies need to be making besides deciding who they won't be covering.
Yeah, so really it comes down to the basic idea of insurance is that your low risk population kind of hedges the bets against your high risk population. And insurance companies generally pool these by state. And so there are places, in Michigan, let's say, where there's not likely to be hurricanes and wildfires. And what we could do is expand the pool of insured homes so that those lower risk areas cover the higher risk areas. Everybody will end up paying, according to their risk and according to their need. But expanding those pools a little bit might make it easier to expand coverage. And I think that's something that insurance companies are looking into.
Joel, I have a quick question. Is there any data on how much of a claim insurance companies actually pay? Because the big complaint is I pay all this money every year, and then when I finally have a claim, they don't want to pay it.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And what can happen is you can sign up for a policy and months or years later, it can be changed. So really staying on top of that as a homeowner is super important. When you first take out a policy, make sure that it's covered enough for the risks that your home is exposed to, and then work with your insurance broker to understand when changes happen. And maybe it means paying a little more every month to keep the coverage that you thought you had. But there are a lot of ways that things can kind of shift without people noticing, and that's when folks get in trouble.
I get that, but you didn't answer my question. Is there any data showing us what percentage of claims actually get paid and to what extent? Are people made whole, partially whole, quarter whole?
Yeah, I don't have any stats in front of me, but it depends on the terms of the policy. So, for example, roof coverage can be a full replacement or it can be a market value replacement. And that's a big difference if you have a roof that's a little bit older. A hailstorm or a windstorm comes and the market value of your roof may be only half of what your new roof is going to cost. That's all built in to the terms of the policy. So it really varies bit to bit. If I find anything, I'd love to follow up and let you know if I can find out exactly what percentage of claims get paid out in their entirety, but I don't have that in front of me.
And if we're looking at risky areas, because you mentioned how insurance companies look at a risky area and a non-risky area, Houston is obviously, we're on the list. So high insurance premiums have already started to push out lower income buyers and really squeeze current homeowners. So for our area, what does that mean exactly for people that are in a high risk area?
Yeah, it means the lack of access to generational wealth growth that comes with home ownership. And that's a real issue in this country when it comes to economic equity. Folks who can't get into home ownership don't have the ability to profit off of real estate value appreciation. And that just leads to more inequity throughout the country and in places like Houston, especially where those risks and the insurance coverage are keeping people out of home ownership. So there's not only just the kind of questions of, is my house covered? Is my house going to become a part of a statistic about extreme weather, but there's more to it there as well, like which vulnerable populations are being priced out of the type of home ownership and long-term wealth accumulation that some others who are more fortunate are already privy to.
To add into the mix of all of that and what Celeste just asked you, we keep hearing about the influx of more people moving into the area. Mm-hmm. We hear about more climate issues in our area. We've seen the shift in weather patterns. We've seen much more severe storms. And we also established early on that insurance companies may not want to take the risk on a lot of these properties. With all of those pieces mixed into what you and Celeste were just talking about, what do you see for the future, the immediate future of this area?
Yeah, I see affordability challenges continuing, and that's the name of the game across the country right now is people not being able to get into homes in the way that they want to. But as Houston continues to grow, we're going to have to be smarter about where we build, where we develop, and I'll tell you an advantage that Houston has is that they're very permissive zoning, or really not much zoning at all, and that allows builders to produce more inventory and really meet the market, where in other parts of the country with minimum lot sizes and parking requirements and things of that sort, there's just not the ability to build as much. So in Houston, we can build, but we need to build smart.
Final question for you. It's tariffs. Are they adding to the price of a home to be built? Nails come from other places, lumber, sheetrock, that sort of thing. Are we seeing a tariff effect on building a home?
We're seeing a slight tariff effect. To be honest, it's less than I anticipated. If you talk to builders right now, it seems to be something that they feel like they can absorb. But really what I think tariffs are doing is they're impacting consumer confidence. People are, just today we had a revision to the jobs numbers that showed a lot less hiring in the last year than we thought there was. And I think that economic uncertainty that comes from the tariffs, just the slowing down of international business. People are fearing for their jobs, and they're not as likely to make a home purchase when they do that. So I think that's kind of the indirect effect of tariffs is even greater than just the material costs that builders face.
Joel Berner is a senior economist at Realtor.com. Joel, thank you for joining us today on Hello Houston.
Thank you so much for having me.
Coming up, we'll discuss a new fiction book based in the Texas wine country. Stay with us as Hello Houston continues.
Federal funding for public media has been cut. In response, we're creating Houston Public Media's Resiliency Fund. Donations made toward the fund will directly counter the loss of the $2.2 million in federal funds that were cut annually and strengthen our station's foundation to provide our services into the future. Contributing to this fund is easy and quick and makes all the difference to our station. Help build the Resiliency Fund now at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate.
The Consumer Price Index is just hard for the Bureau of Labor Statistics to pull together.
They've had big staff cuts, and that means they don't have enough people anymore to go to all of those stores in person that they used to go to.
I'm Collier Rizdal, the ROI on CPI. Next time on Marketplace.
You can listen to Marketplace. It's coming up today at 6:30.
On Fresh Air, you'll hear revelations from well-known actors, like Zach Galifianakis on the story behind his last name.
It's actually shortened, Terry. My real last name is Galifianakisberg. That's an exclusive for your show.
Fresh Air, bringing you some of the biggest names in American culture and some of the most difficult to pronounce. Join us.
Fresh Air, weekdays at 8 p.m. on News 88.7.
Support comes from Near Northwest Management District, located just off 290 and the 610 Loop, with a mixture of modern and mid-century homes and businesses. More information at nnmd.org, at the intersection of innovation. Support for Houston Public Media comes from Houston Grand Opera, opening the 25-26 season with Porgy and Bess, featuring music by George Gershwin, blending jazz, blues, and spirituals. Tickets available now at hgo.org.
And now back to Hello Houston. To share your thoughts on any of today's topics, call 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now here's Ernie Manous, Celestia Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
If you're a wine lover who loves reading, then we have just the book for you. It's called Killer Vintage, recently published suspense thriller about a winery in West Texas That I want to know about, the winery in West Texas that becomes the setting for a mysterious conspiracy. Apart from this, the book also features factual wine information, courtesy of its author, Texas-based executive wine seller Eric D. Sanchez, who uses his knowledge of the winemaking business to craft this thriller. He joins us now to tell us more about Killer Vintage. Eric, welcome to Hello Houston. I read your bio. You're like fifth-generation Texan. So you?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, you know
yes,
that.
First of all, yeah, 5 generations. The Sanchez family goes back to 1832. Abel Sanchez was a cobbler before Texas became a republic.
So how did Eric Sanchez become a winemaker?
Well, it's funny. In the book, in chapter 1, when the main character's with his buddy on the golf course and he gets a job as a tour guide at the winery, that is pretty much how I got into the business. There was a guy named Doug. Doug Wiebe was the real guy. He was from Kilgore. And I was a lifeguard and was getting ready to start grad school. And I needed a new job because kids in Lubbock can't swim. And so became a tour guide and fell in love with the business. And then a few years later, the winemaker got tired of me asking questions all the time because, no offense, it is Lubbock. Not a lot of stuff goes on in Lubbock from Monday through Thursday in terms of visitations. And the winemaker's like, okay, quit asking me questions about all this. I need you to come back here and work in the back. So I was a cellar rat for 2.5 years. Not officially a winemaker, but did all the grunt work, cleaning tanks, bottling, picking grapes, all that kind of stuff. And so that was 32 years ago. And currently right now I work for the second largest wholesaler in the country and have enjoyed every bit about it. It's great.
So you mentioned at the beginning of the book, it's kind of, it comes from your life, this introduction into it. How many crimes, how many murders have you seen down in the cellar?
Nothing like that. Like I said, this was a fiction, but it was always an idea I had about it. The first page of the book says things aren't always what they seem, right? And so the journey that Bud Garza takes as he becomes a tour guide and learns some nefarious things that are going on at the winery. Then the DEA gets involved and the Sinaloa cartel. So it was a fun project to put together.
Something you've been thinking about for a long time.
Yeah, it is. It's set in the 90s. It's set actually in 1994, and I tried to be as in the background as historically correct to the events that were going on. The first part of the chapter, the first part of the book starts with the bodies of Nicole Simpson and Ron Goldman found on the doorsteps at OJ's home. So that's kind of in the background what's going on. And then, of course, all the sounds and sights and songs that happened in the 90s. There's references to VHS tapes, payphones. This is right before cell phones came onto the scene. So a lot of 90s nostalgia for sure.
How long did it take you to write the book?
Great question, Celeste. It took me 7 years to write this book, and I'll tell you why it took so long. In 2017, I was staring down the barrel of a trip to San Francisco, and that's when I was flying about 35, 40 times a year. And I just said, you know what? I've always wanted to write this book. And for the next 3 hours, I forgot to bring a book to read. I just popped over my work computer and opened up a Word document and just started typing.
Wow.
You said you've wanted to write it for a while. Oftentimes I'll talk to authors and they're like, while they're writing the book, the story presents itself to them as they go. Had you already run this story through your head a million times beforehand, and so when it came time to sit down to write it, you knew where it was going? Or did you discover things along the way and the story told it to you?
Great question. I did discover a few things, but for instance, I'll give away a couple of the characters.
Don't
Jerry
give away any
Campbell's
spoilers, though.
Oh, no spoilers.
Okay.
But in one of the scenes, Jerry Campbell, he's the tasting room manager at the winery at South Plains Cellars, and he gives a tour to young Bud Garza. It's his training tour. That pretty much was word for word every tour I gave, the hundreds of tours I gave when I was a tour guide. And so the winery, believe it or not, that it's based on still exists. It was a different name at the time. It was called Caprock Winery back in the early 90s. But now I believe it's called Elizabeth Newsom Cellars. But the layout of the winery, the crush pad, the wine room, the red room, the barrel storage, tasting room, all that's based on an existing building that's still in business today.
Is that in Lubbock?
Lubbock, Texas. Yeah, just south of Lubbock.
So
yeah. So
do you bring grapes in and crush them and make the wine, or do you actually grow orchards out there?
So not so much there's a couple of apple orchards, but they're much further north of Lubbock. Believe it or not, in grad school, I wrote my thesis it was called Fort Tendrils Llano Estacado Winery and the Rise of the Modern Texas Wine Industry. So I had a chance to interview the gentleman that started Llano. And, back then there was really only one winery in the state of Texas. It was Val Verde Winery that had been able to survive during Prohibition because they were able to make communal wine. But in the late 60s, Doc McPherson and Robert Reed were two professors at Texas Tech, and they found a way to teach chemistry and science by actually making wine in the laboratory on the Texas Tech campus. And as the idea grew, it was actually a hedge for cotton farmers. As you know, that particular area of the South Plains, Lubbock County and the 9 counties that surround it, about 25% of the nation's cotton comes from that area. So the farmers liked it because it was always a hedge against if you had a bad year or didn't get as much cotton. So they made an initial commitment. They said, hey, if you guys can plant these grapes, a couple acres of your land, we'll put enough money together and we'll open and create a winery called Llano Estacado Winery. And shortly after that, Ed Aller opened up Fall Creek Fall Creek Vineyards. Paul Bonarigo then opened up Messina Hoff, and that's when the wine industry in Texas really began to start.
Eric, we received a message on YouTube from Denise Ehrlich, who is also known as the Wine Goddess Texas. And she says, looking forward to reading Eric's book, right up my alley.
I bet. So give us a little bit. You said that the cartels, there's sort of a conspiracy going on. This isn't just a Nancy Drew mystery.
No.
This sounds more like a Tom Clancy.
It is, and that's actually where I got some of the inspiration. The original draft was way too long, and the editor, first I give a shout out to Millie Brown at Brown Books Publishing in Texas. So many publishing houses are based in New York City, and the fact that she's been successful with her publishing house right here in Texas is great. And so that was a big reason why I wanted to work with them. But saying that, one of the things that I found interesting with the book is that it takes a journey of someone who doesn't know that something's there and tries to do the right thing. And so as you begin to explore it, the original draft was too big. It was way too big. And I remember the editor saying, okay, Eric, you're not Tom Clancy. Cut back on the details. Because the original text was it was 220,000 words. I was like, I have no problem cutting this down. And he's like, usually this is the part of the conversation with authors that I dread because they don't want to cut their work. I'm like, I'm in sales. What do you need it down to? You need it down to 300? You need 400? What do you need? So from that aspect, go into the details. I try and be as close to what was happening at the time. And again, a lot of nostalgia and that 90s pop culture comes back, especially with the songs. That was right at the beginning of the grunge movement in Seattle. So those songs hit the scene. The NBC series Friends debuted that year. So there's a lot of things that when people read, they'll get some great memories.
It's kind of nice to be able to write this and not be beholden to all the tech changes since then. Like you said, cell phones and texting and Apple this and Apple that. And you just go for a good old-fashioned killer mystery.
Yes, correct. Good way of putting it.
Eric, as somebody who wasn't necessarily did you consider yourself a writer? Or I'm assuming here you didn't necessarily consider yourself a writer, but did you? And now here you are, a published author. What does that feel like for you?
Well, first of all, Celeste, thanks for the question. Great. I feel great about it. This has been a dream for mine for a long time. But in college at Texas Tech, I was a guest columnist for the University Daily. It's what they call the newspaper on campus. And so I got a chance to write a column once a week, did that for a couple of years. Had an article that got published in the Dallas Morning News about my mom's pumpkin pie recipe. So all in the background, I've always loved to write and communicate. Yeah. And especially, working in sales when we're dealing with buyers that I deal with, you have to make sure your emails are crafted, correctly, grammatically done, and make sure they get their point across, but nothing long and, boring. You want to get to the point. So it's always just been kind of natural to me. Plus studying history, believe it or not, next to English, it's one of probably the disciplines that requires a really good knowledge of writing and how to talk about a subject.
Eric, I'm upset. I think you buried the lead here. I want to know your mom's pumpkin pie recipe.
I'll be more than happy to send it to you.
Send it to us.
Yeah, so it's funny. So a quick synopsis about the pumpkin pie story. So my mom always made these wonderful pumpkin pies, God rest her soul. And I always told her, said when I got older, said, hey, you got to give me the recipe, and she's like, oh yeah, I'll get it to you. So, finally, as my mom was getting older and she was like, okay, I'm like, all right, time to get the recipe. And I imagined some kind of old lockbox, right, with an old faded car or some kind of hermetically sealed container. And she gave me a can of Libby's pumpkin pie mix.
Love it.
I was like, you are kidding me.
So
she says, no.
much.
She says, Libby's pumpkin pie. And she says, all I do is double the brown spices. That's it.
Love it. Eric D. Sanchez is a Texas-based executive wine seller and author of Killer Vintage, a West Texas wine thriller. Eric, again, thanks for joining us today on Hello Houston.
Celeste, thank you guys very much. Have a blessed day.
You too.
Coming up, we'll continue diving into today's top stories. Stay with us for the second hour of Hello Houston.
Stay tuned. There's more Hello Houston on the way with Ernie Manous, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley. For the latest in local news, subscribe to the Hello Houston daily newsletter at HoustonPublicMedia.org. Hello Houston is a production of Houston Public Media. The opinions expressed by the guests of this program are solely their own and do not represent the views of management, staff, or underwriters of Houston Public Media. This is News 88.7.
Support comes from GenPro, a Houston-based home generator service providing power to homes during unexpected outages, helping with connectivity and productivity. More information is available at genpro.com.
Your NPR station, KUHF, Houston News 88.7, a service of the University of Houston. It's 12 o'clock.
Just ahead on this hour of Hello Houston, we'll continue diving into the top stories of the day, including the Supreme Court lifting restrictions that barred ICE from stopping people based on race, language, job, or location. I'm Ernie Manous.
And I'm Frank Billingsley. We'll also talk with a partner at Weaver and longtime energy dealmaker Mike Collier, who'll discuss private equity's role in the clean energy transition.
And I'm Celeste Diaz-Sherman. Plus, we'll also learn all about cruises from travel expert Clarkson Rosel of Vacations to Go.
And we want to hear from you. Give us a call or text at 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. You can also watch us on YouTube by going to houstonpublicmedia.org and clicking the big orange banner.
Hello Houston continues right after the news from NPR and News 88.7.
Hello Houston is made possible in part by founding sponsors John Bradshaw and Kathy Sanders, and by gifts from listeners like you.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Windsor Johnston. The State Department is urging American citizens in Qatar to shelter in place after an Israeli strike on an office used by Hamas. The United Nations Secretary General is expressing alarm, as NPR's Michelle Kellerman reports.
UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres says Qatar has played a key role in diplomacy over Gaza, so he's condemning the Israeli strike on the Hamas offices in Doha.
I condemn this flagrant violation of the sovereignty and territorial integrity of Qatar. All parties must work towards achieving a permanent ceasefire, not destroying it.
President Trump has been urging Hamas to accept a 60-day ceasefire and release all hostages they've held in Gaza since the October 7th attack on Israel nearly 2 years ago. Hamas representatives said they were considering it when the Israelis struck their headquarters in Doha. Michelle Kellerman, NPR News, the State Department.
The South Korean government is preparing to send a chartered flight to Atlanta this week. Officials will bring home Korean workers who were detained last week by U.S. agents on charges of immigration violations. NPR's Anthony Kuhn reports they were working at a South Korean auto plant.
The Yonhap news agency reports that the flight could leave as early as Wednesday with enough seats to bring home the more than 300 detained workers. South Korean Foreign Minister Cho Hyun flew to the U.S. on Monday to oversee the process. Immigrations and Customs Enforcement, or ICE, is calling the raid on the Hyundai LG electric vehicle and battery plant in Bryan County, Georgia, its biggest enforcement operation ever. South Korea has pledged to invest $350 billion in the U.S., but experts argue that U.S. visa restrictions make it difficult to bring in the skilled workers needed to build factories. A survey by South Korean pollsters RealMeter found that 60% of respondents considered measures used in the raid excessive. Anthony Kuhn, NPR News, Seoul.
House Republicans are speaking out after a Ukrainian refugee was stabbed to death on a commuter train in North Carolina last month. Speaker Mike Johnson says 23-year-old Irina Zarutska was on her way home from her job at a pizzeria.
She fled amid the deadliest land war in Europe since World War II. She fled to the safety, or so she thought, of the United States.
President Trump has denounced the suspect, calling him a madman and a lunatic. The man was later arrested and charged with first-degree murder. During a speech on Monday, Trump appeared to use the attack to once again stress the need for federal troops to be deployed to large U.S. cities. Stocks are trading higher on Wall Street at this hour. The Dow up 122 points, the Nasdaq up 29. This is NPR News in Washington.
Live from News 88.7 in Houston, I'm Alexandra Hart. State Representative James Talarico is entering the Democratic Senate primary for the seat now held by Republican Senator John Cornyn. News 88.7 political reporter Andrew Schneider says Talarico will hold a campaign kickoff rally this evening in his hometown of Round Rock.
Talarico launched his campaign with a video ad Tuesday morning, leaning into his training as a recently graduated seminarian.
2,000 years ago, when the powerful few rigged the system, that barefoot rabbi walked into the seat of power and flipped over the tables of injustice. To those who love this state, to those who love this country, to those who love our neighbors, it's time to start flipping tables.
Talarico joins a Democratic field that includes Congressman and unsuccessful 2024 Senate candidate Colin Allred. The Republican primary is shaping up as a close fight between Cornyn and State Attorney General Ken Paxton. I'm Andrew Schneider, News 88.7.
A local immigrant rights advocate is warning undocumented immigrants to be careful about selecting attorneys who represent them as they try to become American citizens. Cesar Espinoza is with Fiel Houston. He told Houston Matters this morning that ill-intentioned attorneys are trying to scam people afraid of being forced to leave the country.
Everybody wants to not fear deportation anymore. And sometimes they go to these predatory people that will tell them, if you pay me X amount of money, I can get you status. And that's not always the case.
This comes as the Trump administration is making it more challenging to become a U.S. citizen. Yesterday, they floated changes to the citizenship test to make it harder. Espinoza says overall it's becoming more expensive to go through the process of citizenship. A Houston area midwife who was the first person charged under the state's near-total abortion ban is now facing 15 additional felony counts in Waller County. ABC 13 reports that new records have been filed in the case against 51-year-old Maria Rojas. She's denied the allegations. Initially, Rojas was charged with 3 counts of performing illegal abortions and 12 counts of practicing medicine without a license. I'm Alexandra Hart, News 88.7.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Fisher Investments. Fisher's dedicated team of specialists provide resources on investing, retirement income, estate planning, and more. Learn more at FisherInvestments.com. Investing in securities involves the risk of loss.
From Houston Public Media and News 88.7, it's Hello Houston, an open forum on today's biggest stories affecting Houston and beyond. Call now, 713-440-8870, or let us know your thoughts on today's topics by emailing us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now, Hello Houston with Ernie Manous, Celestia Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
Thanks for joining us on the second hour of Hello Houston. We are back.
Woohoo! That was very interesting, that killer vintage.
It was.
I think it's fun. So we'll see what that's all about.
So Frank, if you were reading that book, would you have a glass of wine with you while you?
Well, wine puts me to sleep. So that I'd probably get 2 pages in. I'd be like, I'm going to sleep. I'll read it later. So no.
Do you guys listen to your books? Are y'all
I'm a big audiobook listener.
See, I am not an audiobook listener.
You know what ruined it for me? Cell phones that hook in so easily in your car. Back before that, I would listen to my little Walkman back in college to my audiobooks. And I was what I considered myself so well read. Back in the day, back in Chicago, they had a place where you could rent audiobooks. You get the cassettes, and they were the abridged, 3 hours. So every bestseller I had heard. And so I felt like I knew all the books. I knew what was going on,
You can still get audiobooks at the public library. At any public library, you can still get
you can also get them online
and
through
also
the public
online.
library. But then when, you got your cell phones, now I'm in the car and I'm always calling people because I don't have time to call them in the office. So I talk to people on the phone all the time. And I miss listening to my audiobooks. I still listen to them. Still get through one or two a month, but not like I used to.
But again, we want to thank you for joining us today on Hello Houston. It is September 9th, 2025.
And what a wake up.
This
morning was beautiful, wasn't it? It's going to be a nice evening, too. Once the sun starts to go down, it'll be nice and dry and cool. Perfect for ISS viewing, the International Space Station.
That's happening at what time?
It will be 7:53 is when it starts. It lasts 6 minutes. So 7:53 to 7:59 goes right across the sky from south-southeast to north-northwest. I think I got that right. And I think it's going to be fabulous. Yes, south-southwest, east-northeast. So it should be going right across the sky. And when you see it, you'll know it because it moves just like a little spaceship. Because that's what it is.
I'm looking forward to that. I'm going to definitely step outside and watch with my kids.
Well, it happens, fairly frequently. But unless you kind of hear about it, it happens so fast. But you've got to get it on a perfectly clear night and the right angle and everything. When everything's perfect, it's spectacular. And it's going to be a nice one tonight.
Yeah, and when you have to get everything just right. Yeah. It has to be the right path.
Yeah.
Has to be the right weather. Has to be the right time.
Yeah, a little cloudy sky ruins it.
Right.
So it's kind of like anything celestial, so to speak.
Oh, well, we have something celestial right here.
We do.
And she's going to give us the headlines of the day. We've got a full hour coming up, so don't go anywhere. Let's start off with headlines.
Texas Representative James Talarico is launching his bid for U.S. Senate today. A former public school teacher and nonprofit director, Talarico, 36, has served in the Texas House since 2018, representing North Austin and parts of Pflugerville and Round Rock. He was first elected to a seat that narrowly went for President Donald Trump in 2016 before switching to a bluer district in 2021 when state Republicans drew him out of his original seat. Talarico has seen his profile skyrocket over the past year as he built a viral presence online with clips of him drawing on his Christian faith to oppose private school vouchers and religion in schools while battling Republican lawmakers and conservative media hosts. He also landed a high-profile feature on Joe Rogan's podcast this summer, a coveted appearance among Democrats looking to engage audiences that have veered to the right. Talarico joins a Democratic primary field that so far includes Colin Allred, a former Dallas congressman and NFL linebacker who fell short of unseating U.S. Senator Ted Cruz in 2024 by 8.5 percentage points, and former astronaut Terry Virts, former U.S. Representative Beto O'Rourke, and U.S. Representative Joaquin Castro of San Antonio are also considering running. We've had Representative Talarico on our show right here on Hello Houston, and the question is he the best option for the Democrats? Now is the time to join us on Hello Houston. You can give us a call or send us a text, 713-440-8870.
Yeah, and Colin Allred has already released a statement today saying, he's on path to continue on this path. So it's not like he heard Talarico and said, okay, I'm out of the race. He's still in it. So it's going to be interesting. I have mixed feelings about it in that in who's in the race and who isn't. I think for the Democrats to be strongest and have their best chance at this, which often seems very difficult in Texas, especially because Republicans have held so strongly in these U.S. Senate seats that it's hard for a Democrat to make inroads. Having a split primary beforehand makes it more complicated. So do you want candidates to talk among themselves, the party in this case, to say, listen, our best option is to go this way to avoid that kind of inner struggle, which we're expecting to see on the Republican side, because on the Republican side, you have Ken Paxton and Cornyn going at it for it. Do you want to avoid that? Or is it the will of the people? So I think if they hold their behavior at a certain high level, that they can go through a primary without tearing each other down, and that whoever then comes out on top, if it gets the full support of the party behind it, then they could have a challenge against the Republican. But if they go at it, mudslinging and tearing, though Talarico, as we know, doesn't seem like that kind of guy. He holds a very kind, compassionate way of approaching all of the topics he deals with. I think we're going to be okay, and I think the people will pick the right candidate. But I'm excited to see him in the race. That was a very long way to say that.
Wow, no kidding.
That was my dissertation.
I need some wine now. I agreed, but I think Beto O'Rourke, as well as Colin Allred, who also seem to have their hat in the ring, are also gentlemen when it comes to politics.
Mm-hmm.
I think they'll be very placating. I'm interested to watch what happens with Cornyn and Paxton.
Right.
And then whoever comes out of that dogfight, that will be, I think, telling for which Democrat can go up against that person the best.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But
and
at
I
that
think
point,
Talarico could really go up against either one of them.
And I am in no way endorsing any candidate here, but I do think that it is great to see another viable candidate for the Democratic Senate position.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Colin Allred, we've had him on the show multiple times. I definitely think that he brought a lot when he was running in 2024 against Senator Cruz. And I think Talarico will as well bring a lot to that conversation. I agree, though, with you, Frank. I think the race to watch is going to be Cornyn Paxton.
Oh, absolutely. Sure. Yeah. And I think... And that is the only reason we're even talking about the possibility of a Republican Senate seat taken, is because of this internal fighting that we expect to see, which has already begun to be pretty dirty. And by dirty, I mean the vitriol that comes out of both camps as they attack each other. That's what they're expecting to see escalate, and that they will tear each other down.
And I don't want either one.
It's also very interesting to fact when we look at the polls, Paxton seems to have a steady, slight lead on Cornyn when we are looking at the different types of polls. And what we understand is Attorney General Paxton is very conservative, very to the right. So the fact that when you're looking at these candidates, Cornyn, who usually was considered more moderate, and the fact that Paxton is in the lead is very interesting.
Yeah. Do you think it's an age thing?
It's a good question. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either. Cornyn strikes me, obviously, as older and been there a long time. Kind of Paxton seems like fresh blood, but obviously he's not. He's been in Texas a long time and he's done a lot. So
Paxton seems like a very much, I would say, from a strategy perspective, more like a President Trump, and he's going to be strong. He's going to tell you what he believes. He's not taking anything, no prisoners. And I think that is, from what we understand and the way Texans vote, they like to see that type of figure.
And he doesn't care what you think of him.
And he doesn't care what you think of him.
Yeah.
And so I do think, I don't know if it's an age thing, but I will say from a strategy perspective, Attorney General Paxton will go for it, guns a-blazing.
I do want to just clarify a couple things. Emerson College poll shows that Cornyn and Paxton are in a statistical dead heat, so they are tied there. Texas Southern University's poll that came out late August indicates that Cornyn has closed the gap with Paxton, and recent internal polling from the Pro-Cornyn Senate Leadership Fund show Cornyn cutting Paxton's lead in half to 8 points. So they're showing a lead still with Paxton, but Cornyn pulling in.
But to have a lead over the incumbent this early, I think is pretty remarkable.
A lot of people are saying.
I don't know if that is really remarkable or not. I think that tends to often happen. The fresh new thing gets a lot of attention and people look at it and say, oh, and then as you get closer, I remember an old thing we were taught in news polling when I worked at NBC on this is that we don't ever like to fire someone who has a job. So depending if they're the incumbent, will usually tend to sway toward the incumbent at the end of the day, because it's harder to say. Now, if it's an empty seat, then it's anyone's guess. But usually an incumbent does have that advantage because people don't like to fire you from your job.
Well, and they know what they're getting.
Right.
But with Paxton, it's a little different. Like Celeste said, you know what you're getting.
Yes. Oh, you absolutely know who these candidates are.
And I think a lot of people, Cornyn has surprised a lot of people, a lot of Texans, when they're looking at him in some of the ways he has approached this election, and maybe moving much more to the right than what he's done in the past.
Well, he's trying. I mean, the Republicans are finding out what the Democrats have always known. You got to try to please everybody,
right?
If you're going to make any real inroads,
yeah.
Unless you're the only one running, then you don't have to worry about that.
I think, though, Cornyn has proven himself to show his moderate leanings recently. He hasn't been 100% with Trump. He hasn't. So Paxton is coming out as the more conservative, the
Yes.
farther right. And Cornyn, I think if he were wise from a political point of action, I would say he would be trying to court that middle of the road voter who at the end of the day will make the decision. If Cornyn gets the nomination, then you've got to get that middle group that isn't real happy with anybody. And could Paxton get that? Because we've gotten so diverse on the other side. It'll be interesting to watch the race.
Time will tell.
Like I said, I care more about the race usually than I do about the final result. I love watching campaigns, so we'll be watching this one closely.
Again, 713-440-8870. We would love to hear what your thoughts are. Again, 713-440-8870.
Okay, Celeste, the story you've been waiting for. You ready?
Yep.
A young Philadelphia Phillies fan has been given a special baseball treat after a coveted home run ball was taken away from him during a dispute that has gone viral. Phillies outfielder Harrison Bader hit a home run during a matchup against the Miami Marlins last week in Miami with the baseball flying into the stands. As fans scrambled to catch the ball appeared to land one row in front of a woman, while a man ran over and grabs it. After grabbing the ball, he walks back to his seat and gives the ball to a young boy. The man told broadcasters that it was his son Lincoln's birthday, and that was just a few days away. The woman seen on social media walks over to the man. We're using the word berates, but has a heated conversation toward him and says, "That was mine." Shortly after the incident, and the man gave the ball to the woman. Shortly after the incident, the Marlins staffer gave the boy a Miami Marlins gift bag filled with swag. And then after the game, the young fan was given another memorable gift. He got to meet the Phillies outfielder who talked with the young fan and gave him an autographed baseball bat. So win-win-win for the young boy. What are your thoughts about the viral video? Was this woman wrong?
And I do believe
Hold on one second. 713-440-8870.
I also believe that the owner of an RV dealership is offering that, giving them an RV and paying for their tickets, I think, to the MLB World Series.
Oh, I thought I was just giving them an RV.
Wow.
Yeah, this story continues. What do you think? I've watched this video a lot.
Yeah.
And at first they kept showing on news the second part of it when she walks over to the gentleman and his son and is like, "That was my ball." But when you watch it, when it's really happening, have you guys looked at that?
Yeah,
and
of
seen?
course.
So the ball, it isn't in her hands. She doesn't have the ball. So who was right in this?
She was wrong.
Well, should there be space of where the ball lands that these 6 people get a chance for it?
No.
Not somebody from way down. He
No.
was 10 seats away at least.
I don't think there's territorial rule.
No, she thought there was.
She seemed
and he
to think
agreed
the
because he
ball
went,
came-
okay, and he gave it to her. So he agreed with her. And he
Right,
also
Celeste, this
said
was
people
Celeste.
need to stop berating her. He said call off the dogs on her.
Yeah.
So he didn't think she was wrong.
So I think that when you think about at the end of the day exactly what happened, she was wrong. I thought she was absolutely wrong. In the moment, though, I will give her the benefit of the doubt. And I want to say this, and I want to be very clear. I don't want this woman's life to be ruined, right? We also have to have some perspective here. People are coming at her. We obviously don't want people's lives to be ruined over this. But she, in the moment, was heated. And I think to your point, Frank, felt like, hey, this ball came to me in my section, in my seat, and this guy ran over here and took it. In the moment, she had a moment to redeem herself. The dad grabs the ball from his son's glove.
Right.
When he gave it back to her, when you see a man taking a ball out of a kid's glove, I would think that's the moment. As adults, we would say, okay, you know what?
I was wrong.
I was wrong. I was heated. You know what? Here, kid, take it. Have it.
It's a stupid baseball.
It's a baseball. You know, I get it. I understand in that moment, she probably felt heated, like, hey, wait a minute. This was coming to me. This was like, bro, stay in your section. But at the end of the day, she was taking it from the little boy. And that to me is the issue. As adults, we don't take that from kids. I mean, come on.
Well,
and
she took it from the little boy whose father took it from her.
So,
yes.
whoa. Did he take it from her or did he get it in front of her? I think back to like parades, and this always happens at parades. A float goes by and it's throwing beads or whatever out, and people all reach in to grab it. whoever gets it, got it.
Mm-hmm.
End of the day. Now, I luck out because Walt often goes with me, and he's 6'7", so he can grab these things higher than everybody
And there are thousands
else.
of beads in one baseball.
I also thought
I know,
it was I thought it was very interesting to also see how the dad handled it. He said, "Here, take it."
Oh yeah,
I don't
he didn't want any trouble.
I don't want any trouble.
It's obvious.
I think that after what I find so funny is that we had literally just seen the viral moment from that CEO executive snatching the hat from that little boy at the U.S. Open. Yeah. It's like, come on.
What was funny to me in this video that we're talking about is when the woman comes over to talk to him and he turns and he sees her and he's like, whoa, and his hands go up. That makes me laugh.
Totally caught off guard. I thought she was absolutely wrong. Come on.
713-440-8870. Rachel from the West Side, what do you think about all of this?
Good morning. Hello. I love the show. I hate to be disagreeing with all of you.
No, please do. We love that.
I think the man who took the ball to give to his son was wrong. Suppose that the woman, or there was another child seated there, and this guy from 10 seats over comes rushing over to take the ball. I mean, would we feel differently?
Good point.
Well,
Rachel, I appreciate the perspective. While I really do appreciate the perspective, it's a hypothetical. What we know is what actually happened, and was this woman took the ball from this kid.
Well, but, I guess, Rachel, talk to me a little bit about the concept of the ball wasn't hit to her. It wasn't being intentionally sent her way for her to get. It was going up into the stands, and it's a free-for-all when it does that. So isn't it whoever gets it first gets it?
This I don't know. I'm going to have to defer to you people. You may be more current on the correct etiquette regarding baseball that are knocked into the stands. But I assume that if you're the closest one, it's kind of yours. Am I correct?
I wouldn't argue with your accent. You sound like you have more etiquette in you than we do here. But I don't know that there are rules of etiquette when it comes to a fly ball into a stand. It's always, the images I always see is a huge pileup of people all going for it, and somebody gets it, and whoever gets it holds it up, and they're so proud. So I don't think they think in terms of who's closest. I think it's a winner-take-all kind of approach.
Yeah. Her agility was called into question to actually get she probably can't tie her own shoes, much less get down there and, I have the same problem. No, I don't have the same problem. I like slip-ons.
Rachel, thank you so much for calling and joining the conversation.
Getting down there and grabbing the ball, that's what she couldn't do. She could not go below and get the ball. And he came and got
it was in the row in front of her, so it's not only just reaching down, it's reaching down and over to even lower.
Oh, then it's not her ball. I thought it went into her seat.
I don't think it did. I think it landed in the row below her.
If it was the row below her, no, it's anybody's.
We have received some comments from YouTube. Cosme Garcia, I will always take a ball from a child. I was once a child. Cosme.
LOL.
Oh. Yeah, well, also Denise says, no territorial rules for nabbing a home run ball, especially when there are that many empty seats in the arena. She was wrong, and he behaved very reasonably.
You know what? At the end of the day, go Astros.
And my British computer guy says she should have got up and got it herself.
I would just say
apparently
be careful.
Per Frank, she couldn't.
She couldn't. She wasn't.
She didn't seem to be. I mean, she could really run over there to that kid. She was like a jackrabbit. But getting that ball from under that, I don't know that she really even knew quite what was going on.
No, I'm sure she knew. Today, it's National Teddy Bear Day. Care Bear Share Your Care Day. So the Bears are ruling the day today, and also International Sudoku Day.
Coming up on Hello Houston, we will talk with Mike Collier, the partner at Weaver and longtime energy dealmaker, about private equity's role in the clean energy transition. This is News 88.7. Stay with us.
Hello, I'm Josh Adams, General Manager of Houston Public Media. This station just lost $2.2 million in federal support annually. To keep our station strong, we've launched the Resiliency Fund, powered by community members just like you. Your support will help bridge the funding gap and ensure these programs remain free and accessible to everyone. If public media and this station matter to you, now is the time to act. Support the Resiliency Fund today at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate.
Learn how you can help at houstonpublicmedia.org.
I'm Jeremy Hobson. Next time on The Middle, a growing political battle over redistricting is brewing in states like California, Texas, and Missouri. But the issue of redistricting itself raises questions over what fair political representation actually looks like. So, do you feel represented by the political process? And what does fair representation look like to you? That's our question next time on The Middle.
You can hear it this Thursday at 8 p.m.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from listeners like you and from Live Nation, presenting Leon Bridges, The Crooner and the Cowboy, September 21st at Cynthia Woods Mitchell Pavilion. Tickets available at livenation.com.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from Certa Pro Painters, offering residential and commercial painting services, from color consultations to full project management. Estimates and more at CertaPro.com.
Support comes from Mother Jones, presenting The Lingering Storm, Climate Change, Displacement, and Action, exploring the impact of Hurricane Katrina on climate, community, and resilience. September 10th. More at motherjones.com/lingering storm.
Support comes from UT Health Houston, home to McGovern Medical School and Dr. Charles Cox, who is focused on reversing brain damage with his patients' own stem cells. More about the many faces of UT Health Houston at uth.edu/manyfaces.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on any of today's topics, call 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now back to Ernie Manous, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
With President Trump's big, beautiful bill now signed into law, the U.S. is making a big bet on energy dominance. But where does that leave the clean energy transition? Private equity has been a key driver of climate tech investment, but after years of rapid growth, deal flow is slowing. So what really is going on behind the numbers? Joining us now is Mike Collier, partner at Weaver and longtime energy dealmaker. His new paper, Private Equity and Climate Change, Now the Work Begins, looks at why the boom is cooling and which sectors are still hot, and what the U.S. must do to stay competitive in the world where China is outspending us. Mike, welcome to Hello Houston.
Thank you.
Good to have you here. Also, if you'd like to join the conversation, give us a call or text at 713-440-8870. Okay, I guess we should start with your paper and then we'll dig into this whole world. What led to the writing of it? Why now? What should we know?
Well, I think if you understand private equity, and perhaps I should explain what private equity is.
Yes,
give
it a try. Why don't we start there?
You find that studying and watching them is very important to see what's happening in the bigger picture. Mm-hmm. What is private equity? Oversimplifying it, but they're companies that exist for the purpose of investing in small, private, I didn't even know that company existed companies. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So if you're Texas Teachers Retirement Fund and you have to invest a lot of that money, you can buy stocks and bonds, and those are public companies. There's information right at your fingertips. Mm-hmm. But if you want to invest in private companies, you find a firm that specializes in finding them. Mm-hmm. And the reason why that's important is this. If you're Texas Teachers Retirement Fund and you give money to a private equity fund to buy companies, they are watched very carefully. Is that a good investment? Will the value of that investment grow? And so there's a lot of transparency, which means they don't invest unless they know they're going to make money. And so if you watch private equity, then you ask the question, are they investing in energy transition? Mm-hmm. Because if you're sitting in Houston, you read the headlines, and for a long time, energy transition was very exciting, but you got to ask the question, but can you make any money doing it? And I think
the idea is you buy them and get into them, invest in them, they grow, then you sell your interest, and that's where you make your money.
Correct. That's exactly right.
But I think you're asking that question of I think to myself, where we are now in regards to this new presidential administration, knowing about clean energy and the rollback that we've seen, is that the energy transition still at the forefront?
Yeah, it's a wonderful and very important question. I will say this. What drove energy transition in the first place is consumers. Mm-hmm. What do I mean by that? If you're worried about your planet, you might not want to do business with a bank that isn't also worried about the planet. In other words, consumers want companies to do something about this. So this is demand-driven. And if it's demand-driven, it would suggest that you can make money as an investor. If you're investing in something that's driven by popular demand, you would expect that you can make money.
Do you have an example? You say that these come like the Texas Retirement Teachers Fund. So they're looking to a private equity firm to find the right small businesses.
Right.
What's an example of a small business that they might look for?
So here's a great example. It could be a wind company. It could be a company that went out and built a bunch of wind farms out in West Texas.
Yep.
And they're producing power and they're selling power and they're making money, and they decide to sell to a private equity fund who then will take that and increase the value through better management, through making other acquisitions. And so that's how the circle goes. So that's one example. I could think of hundreds. If you go out into the oil patch, they've been doing it forever in the oil and gas industry. You might buy a drilling company. You might buy an equipment company. So now we're talking about buying wind farms and solar plants, and we're talking about technologies that support those industries and so forth.
Is the trend still there?
Right. So talk to me. You have the Biden administration, I would think, with this push toward this renewable energy and everything, that private equity firms would say, hey, we should be investing in this. This is where the future is going. The administration changes. The idea now is, oh, that's all bad. Go back to fossil fuels. What happens to all, if in fact it's being watched to be good investments, did those investments turn out not to be so good because of the rhetoric we're hearing from higher
That's
above?
a fabulous question, and that's what the paper that I wrote was all about, or the research that I did. This is the second time that I looked at it. I'm going to look at it every year to see how it trends. I looked at this for the first time last year, and this is before they wiped out all those tax credits. And I looked at the trends over the previous 5 years, and the excitement on energy transition and the number of firms that got into it and the amount of money that they put to work was just off the charts. And it was growing really rapidly, cumulatively 130% per year.
Wow.
Growing much more rapidly. Now, this is deal flow now, much more rapidly than traditional energy. And there was a lot of excitement. And then at the very last were these credits that came from the Biden administration, which was really just supercharged it all. And then all of a sudden, the credits go away. And the conversation now around energy transition is very, very different. And you can feel it if you're in the market. And so the question is, when will we see that in private equity deal flow? Interestingly enough, we will see it, but not yet.
Right.
And the reason for that is those credits help build new things, and private equity comes in after the new things are built. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so private equity is sort of a lagging indicator. So we're going to continue to watch this. But one thing I can assure you is that because there's so little new development because of the change in tax policy, there's going to be a lot less out there for private equity to invest in and to grow. And my personal point of view is that we're being short-sighted here, and that won't surprise anybody from a policy standpoint.
Can the industry supersede or ignore policy that's coming from the federal government because it is seeing it as a valued investment and it knows it's the future? And from the upper administration, what we keep hearing is waffling on a lot of different things. You look at tariffs, they come, they go. Does that end up becoming empty rhetoric there, and the industry just does what the industry wants to do?
That's a great question. I think for the large energy companies who have a 5, 10, 15, 20-year planning horizon,
30.
They know the pendulum is going to swing back and forth. They're not particularly upset by temporary changes in policy because the pendulum is likely to swing back in the other direction. Furthermore, they need those 10 or 15 or 20 years to perfect the technology and to be ready and so forth. So the big companies, I'm sure that it's frustrating, but I don't think that it really slows them down.
What about for the little companies?
But in private equity, in little companies, I mean, it's dramatic. And for example, some of the projects that I'm working on now, the owners of these companies are thinking to themselves, I have to change the way I do business because the credits aren't going to be there. And also layering onto that, which is brand new, is the tariff situation. Sure. So smaller companies are hit much more significantly, more profoundly. than the larger companies.
How do you have the confidence to even go with the flow? I mean, here you built your small company in such a way that now that business model is not working, and so you have to switch. But you're like, well, why am I going to switch here when I've got to switch back there maybe later? Or are you just always going to have to switch here and there?
No, I think that's one of my biggest concerns, to be honest with you, Frank, which is that if folks know that policy is going to change dramatically, because that's the state of politics in our country, that every 4 years it's going to completely flip, then you have a really hard time saying, I'm going to invest in this industry because it might be good now, but 4 years from now it could go south on me. And so this volatility in terms of policy is having a real impact on people's willingness to invest in an industry that we have to invest in. And that's essential to point out. And this isn't all about climate change here. This is about keeping up with energy demand in our country. And in the paper, you might notice that China is investing in energy, broadly speaking, transition included, as much as the U.S. and Europe combined. And they were in the come-from-behind position not long ago.
Does this mean they're getting away from coal and trying to get more toward wind and solar?
They are. I think all of the above, including nuclear. And so, we are comfortable, and they are aggressive, and we are not investing, and they are. And if you think that's not going to impact our competitive posture, if you think that it's not going to be a problem in terms of the strength of our economy and national security, you're mistaken.
You're listening to Hello Houston. We are speaking with Mike Collier, the partner at Weaver and longtime energy dealmaker, about private equity's role in the clean energy transition. If you would like to join the conversation, you have a question for Mike, you can call or text 713-440-8870.
And what you were just saying then is, does it make sense for private equity, and can private equity invest in foreign companies? Can you invest in Chinese companies? Can you invest somewhere else where they are still on this path and then step over U.S. industry?
There are all sorts of private equity funds that do what I call exotic investments like that.
Is that exotic?
But the main event, and I started by talking about the Texas Teachers Retirement Fund, because here we are in Texas. The Texas Teachers Retirement Fund wants that money spent, largely in Texas. And so they don't want it spent outside of Texas. Now,
even if it can give them a bigger profit and a bigger payback.
Yeah, there's a lot that is involved in terms of where do we want to put our money. And the public good is a big part of it. I don't know their policy specifically, but the point is that, CalPERS we hear about all the time, which is the California Retirement Fund. They're very much sort of broad policy oriented. We don't want you to invest in this kind of thing or that kind of thing. So, but the money, where the money starts, which is the retirement funds that goes to private equity, they're pretty clear. You can invest in this, but you cannot invest in that. And what I see mostly as a Texan is you invested here in the U.S.
And that's from a moral standpoint, not. Shouldn't their interest be in what's going to make us the most money?
Well, I would say this, Frank. It may surprise you, and as somebody who has worked in the energy industry for 42 years, and there's a lot more that in terms of investing than just return. There's a lot of good corporate citizenship. We don't often hear about it. But executives who make these decisions, for example, they're thinking about their brand positioning and how people perceive them, and they want to be liked. They want to feel like they're so. Community consciousness is much more an investment component than you might think.
Well, that's good to hear.
But
I believe it.
But if we see a negative turn in our market here, if we see inflation going up, development slowing down, and uncertainty in our economic forecasts and future, doesn't it run the risk, though, of investments happening outside of our territory, and that could have long-term damage to us as a nation? Because at the end of the day, as Frank's bringing up, business is business, and people are trying to make money so their investments grow.
Well, we are underinvesting in energy in the United States of America, and there's no question. I don't think there's anybody that would challenge that assertion, and particularly consider the demand for energy because of AI and these data centers. And then you think about Texas and the fact that we had a hard time keeping the lights on not too many years ago.
Right.
I have a feeling we're going to be in deep trouble in our lifetime for sure, where we're just not going to have enough power and energy to keep up with the demand, and that's going to be a very, very uncomfortable place, because what's going to happen is consumers are going to pay a lot more than they want to. The reliability isn't going to be anywhere where it ought to be, and there's a long lead time, I should say, in terms of waking up one day and saying, Houston, we have a problem.
Right.
And then when the solution actually comes online.
Well, the power required to mine for crypto is astounding. I mean, I don't even know where we get enough power to do it, but we're finding it and we're doing it.
Yeah, it's remarkable, these data centers. And we're not in the lead, by the way, as Texas in terms of data centers.
Now, Mike, how much does a private equity firm have to raise to be able to invest in clean energy?
That's a great question. Some raise big money and make big investments in the billions. Many of them, and we've got a number of firms in Houston that are quite happy making smaller investments. And so you'll see them talking about spending. I mean, this is still a lot of money. It's more money than I make in a year. But you'll see them spend $20 or $30 million on a smaller operation. But you'll see the large, mature private equity funds spending in the billions.
What are they looking for percentage of return on stuff like that? I mean, are we talking peanuts or are we talking huge returns?
Oh, I think it's double digit. They want double-digit returns.
Percentage-wise, you mean?
Percentage-wise.
10 to 20%, if more?
Yeah, if not more.
Yeah.
Wow.
So when you're looking at raising funds like that, does the Trump rollbacks of emissions requirements change the strategy in regards to your investments?
I think there's less of it. I mean, you can size your firm and your fundraising to the investment opportunities that you see. Because what they do is they'll go out and raise a fund, and they'll get several Texas teachers' retirement funds to commit to this. And they'll have a certain amount of money to spend. And let's say that it's $500 million. Then they'll go out and put that money to work. And then they'll go raise another fund and put that money to work. And they can size that fundraising based on the kind of deal flow that they think that they can see. So it's very efficient that way. My point of view is that I think that we should be raising more and investing more.
Yeah.
Because there's a not inconsequential connection between how much money these firms put to work and the likelihood that we'll have the power that we need.
Not to give away your trade secrets, but curious, with all that we've talked about now, what area do you see where there is going to be good, substantial growth in this renewable, effective energy sources? Where should we be looking, do you think?
Well, first of all, I'm flattered that you would ask me that question. I actually make a living as an accountant. I was described earlier as a deal maker. I am a mechanic, and so if I knew which places to invest, I probably wouldn't be an accountant. I probably would be making those deals. But here's where I think we'll see. I'll say two things about where investments will come from in the future. There's a handful of energy transition components where big companies will do the early investing, such as the hydrogen economy, such as carbon capture, such as, to some extent, geothermal, to some extent, lithium. Why? Because that's a long lead time with a lot of capital that you have to put to work before the industry is up and running. And then the costs will come down and the industries will become more attractive. And later, private equity will move into that. In the nearer term, I think that there are going to be opportunities for companies to say, if I invest in this company that produces electricity in this part of the state, I'll be at the right place at the right time in 18 months when those communities are crying out for power, and I'll own that power.
Well, learned something today.
Yeah.
Mike Collier is a partner at Weaver, energy dealer. Mike, thank you.
And mechanic. You didn't say mechanic.
Accountant. Let's go with accountant.
Mike, thank you for joining us today on
Thank you very much.
Houston. Coming up, we'll discuss vacation cruises. Stay with us as Hello Houston continues. With federal funding cuts, Houston Public Media has lost $2.2 million annually. In response, we have launched the Resiliency Fund, an urgent initiative to protect the programs and services you rely on. That includes PBS Kids, that provides free educational programming to children and families across Greater Houston. Your support of the Resiliency Fund helps keep this vital service accessible to our community. Give now at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate.
Email us at talk@houstonmatters.org.
Hi, I'm Manoush Zamarodi, and our world is changing so fast.
On the TED Radio Hour, we invite innovators, researchers, and activists to unpack those changes with us.
Just about all companies are becoming technology companies or technology-enabled companies.
Listen to the TED Radio Hour from NPR every week for conversations that will deepen your understanding of our changing world. The TED Radio Hour, Tuesdays at 9 p.m. on News 88.7.
Houston Public Media presents The Moth Story Slam, September 16th at Lambert Hall. Doors open at 7 p.m. There is no theme this month. Tell the story your heart desires. Tickets at houstonpublicmedia.org/The Moth. Support comes from Specs, focusing on whiskey and bourbon this month, with sips of oak, vanilla, and more, featuring known and small batch varieties. More information available at specsonline.com. The fun starts here.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on any of today's topics, call 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now here's Ernie Manous, Celestia Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
All right, Clarkson Rosel has over 16 years' experience in the travel industry and currently serves as manager of the singles department at Vacations to Go, the world's largest cruise retailer. He began his career as a travel agent, worked his way up, gained extensive first-hand cruising experience along the way, and today specializes in creating those unforgettable, good or bad, I guess, travel experiences for singles and solo travelers. Welcome, Clarkson. We're glad you're here.
Well, thank you for having me.
Well, let's get right into it. Your specialty is people who are single,
yes,
or don't want to travel with their wife, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah, singles or solo travelers,
or husband,
partner, whatever. Yeah. So what we do is we gather, a large group of singles or solo travelers, people just like you said, who don't necessarily have other people to travel with, or they just want to get out of the house and leave their husband at home. It happens. We offer maybe like 16 to 20 different options for during the year, and we gather them up. We take them on the cruise. We act as hosts. There's a team of us in the singles department. We go on the cruise with them, kind of like a mini wannabe cruise director. We host cocktail parties, icebreaker games. We go on excursions with them. So it's a really good chance for people to get out of the house and meet other travelers who don't necessarily have people to travel with.
Is it broken down into groups and ages?
No, it's all ages, but our key demographic is maybe like 55 to 65.
Could you pick? Like, I'd like to be in the 45.
I want to be with the fraternity guys.
Celeste figures out which group she'd like to travel with.
Sure.
Let me ask you a question about what we've seen in concern with cruises of late. And one major cruise line has kind of put regulations in and what kind of music they're playing, or so it's been rumored they've been doing it. The cruise culture pre and post COVID seems to have shifted in some ways. Is that an accurate understanding of what's going on out there? When prices dropped to get folks back in, it changed different aspects of cruising. Is there anything to that?
I would say, of course, COVID affected everything. I mean, we all stopped. Nobody knew what was going on.
Right.
As far as coming back after COVID, we're doing better than ever. 2023 is when we really picked up. We were past post-pandemic, and the cruise industry is just huge. There are better pricing. But as far as what you're referring to, I just got off of a cruise, a 5-day cruise that was rumored to have the regulations, and it was fantastic. I think the cruise industry is really trying to bring in more people, maybe a younger demographic, in some ways. And so they're offering a lot of different amenities that they weren't doing before. A lot of the cruise lines are, have water slides and roller coasters and those kinds of things.
Yeah, they're getting kind of crazy up on top.
They are getting kind of crazy. But I definitely think that they're doing a good job of bringing people back. And, we're getting calls like crazy, for people who are wanting to book all ages.
We did get a comment on YouTube that says, "Don't be ageist, Celeste."
Don't be ageist, Celeste.
I even went older than my Democrat. I am not
Celeste
in my 40s
is
yet.
Looking for an older group so she looks younger. That's what's going on.
So, a travel agent like yourself is always handy. I was saying, you can't go to Africa and just say, "Here, I'm ready for my safari."
No.
Yeah, you need someone maybe to guide you, depending on how does one make a list. I want to be with singles or solos, or I have 2 young kids, or I'm bringing my elderly father with me, or whatever. How does one go about deciding what's important for a cruise? Because they're
that's
very
a really
different.
good. Yeah, that's a very good question. And booking with a travel agent is key. If you call up one of the cruise lines, Royal Caribbean or Carnival, they're going to sell you a Royal Caribbean or a Carnival cruise.
Right.
Booking with, come on.
Yeah.
Booking with
That's
a
right.
travel agent, we represent Vacations to Go represents all of the cruise lines. We book everything, but we're going to take into consideration what you're looking to do. Are you bringing your family? Are you an older couple who doesn't want to have the hairiest
The
legs
singles
contest?
group. By you.
Everybody wants to have the singles group by you.
Oh, right.
We
right.
are
They're the
we
party.
are the fun.
Y'all bring the fun.
We are the fun.
That's right.
But a travel agent is able to take that information, get exactly what you're looking for, and then narrow you down, help you decide which one you're actually, would be best for you.
What do people look at most? Like excursions and where this thing is going, or price point, or if it's a singles cruise,
or ship experience, what's on the ship itself.
Food.
For food, all of those things are important, and that's what a travel agent does. Tell us what you're looking for, what's most important to you. Some people are looking for the itineraries. That's the most important thing for them because they've done everything. And with these bigger ships, these newer ships, people are going to look for the roller coasters and the water slides and all those things.
And luxury travel has
Yes.
become really big with cruises.
Yes. So that's really picking up as well. So if you're looking to go to some of the smaller ports, it's really important that you take into account that these big, massive ships aren't going to be able to fit into most ports. So if you're looking to do something more specific like that, then you definitely want to go with one of the smaller ships. That can fit in.
Now, Clarkson, cruise culture is a whole thing. And what do people, what are the top 3 things people want in a cruise when they are thinking, I'm going to go on this trip?
It depends. Are you looking for relaxation? Are you wanting to go and just chill? Do you want a quiet time? Are you looking to party? Do you want the nightclubs and the music and the dances by the pool? Are you looking for something more exotic or something more adventurous? Do you want to go to Alaska? Do you want to see the wildlife? It all depends on what you're specifically looking for.
You can stay on the boat and see wildlife. Trust me.
It depends on what cruise line you go to, but yes, you can.
And I think flexibility has to be mentioned. I had friends that were on a Greek island cruise, and they got to Mykonos, and there were lots of ships. They couldn't get their ship in there, so they didn't get to go to Mykonos. So they said, "Well, we're going to go to Santorini." They didn't get to go there either. Ooh. They went to some off island because that's the only place they could go.
Greek island.
Well, agreed. I mean, I think they made the most of it.
Right.
But every cruise can come with an issue or two.
You would think they would have coordinated that beforehand.
You would think. Ask the man there.
It doesn't happen all the time, but it happens. Weather is a big factor. So if there's bad weather and the ship can't pull into port, then they're going to redirect. You may have an extra sea day. You may go to a different port. So yeah, you definitely have to be flexible in the itinerary. But most of the time you're going to where they say you're going.
Well, that's when you come in handy to say, we're going to have fun anyway.
Exactly. That's why I'm here, and that's what we do.
I would assume if you have very specific requirements or needs or wants, booking earlier is better than waiting for later. I have seen certain cabins you want. I have seen people book out 5 years in advance for a certain suite. So it is something, if you really are particular, you should be thinking about this.
100%. If for any cruiser, especially first-time cruisers, booking early is the most important thing that you can do. Not only are you locking in the rates, so you're locking in the rate, and if the price goes down before that final payment, most of the time you can get that better rate. So it's best to book early, lock it in, and if the price starts to go up, you're protected. If the price goes down, then call your travel agent at Vacations to Go,
or wherever,
and get them to take a look at it and see if you're eligible for that price drop.
What about seniors who are like, I have the freedom to go tomorrow? Is there like a last minute?
There used to be really great deals.
There
is.
Like on Southwest, like the getaway type ticket.
Does that really exist?
It really does. So we have what's called a Vacations to Go, the 90-day ticker on the website. You go to the website, and right at the top of the screen, we advertise the very best deals for any cruises that are going out within the next 90 days. So those are the rock bottoms. That's when the cruise lines are looking to fill up the ships, when they have extra cabins.
But like Wednesday before a Sunday sail, do they drop the prices to fill the boat, or is that old school?
There's a lot more security involved in getting, I watched
used
Love
to
Boat.
do that.
A Love Boat, you can just walk right on.
The Love Boat?
Yeah. Not anymore. No, you have to. Yeah, I would say that you have to book at least 24 hours in advance.
Yeah,
because you have to make sure paperwork.
Do they, as you get closer to the sail date, are they looking at this ship isn't filled, will drop these prices because it's more important to have volume because they're going to be buying drinks.
Yes.
The ship's going out anyway.
Absolutely. So that's when you'll see some really good deals. Is much closer to the sailing. But again, if it's something that you really want, if it's an itinerary you need, book as early as possible. And then that's when you're going to get.
But if you're just looking for a deal, how's the Galveston cruise industry doing?
It's great. It's great. We just got the Royal Caribbean opened up their brand new port, so it's massive. So,
oh wow!
I saw it.
Galveston.
You'd think Mr. Galveston would know that, but
you would think
Clarkson knows that, not me.
That's why I'm here. No, Galveston is great.
What they have Royal Caribbean and who else?
Royal
Carnival.
Caribbean, Disney, Princess,
Carnival, of course.
Yeah, Carnival goes out of there. Yeah. So hopefully we'll get some more.
Yeah.
Clarkson Rosel is the singles department manager at Vacations to Go. Clarkson, thanks for joining us today on Hello Houston.
Thank you so much for having me.
And that brings us to the end of our show.
Done already?
It's done.
That was quick. Let's go on a cruise.
Let's do it tomorrow.
We want to thank you for listening, chatting, texting, calling into Hello Houston today. We will be back tomorrow with more conversations. This is News 88.7.
Thanks for listening to Hello Houston. Join us every Monday through Friday from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. to talk all things Houston. The Hello Houston production team includes Garrett Bowman, William Menjivar, Jen Altai, Todd Holslander, and Jim Kovacic. For the latest in local news, subscribe to the Hello Houston daily newsletter at HoustonPublicMedia.org. Hello Houston is a production of Houston Public Media. The opinions expressed by the guests of this program are solely their own and do not represent the views of management, staff, or underwriters of Houston Public Media. This is News 88.7.
Support comes from Miller Outdoor Theater presenting El Grito with Lupita Infante and special guest Jackie Rivera on Mexican Independence Day this coming Monday the 15th. Open to the public, more at MillerOutdoorTheater.com. We have 85 degrees. This is your NPR station, KUHF, Houston News 88.7, a service of the University of Houston.
Funding for Here and Now comes from MathWorks, creator of MATLAB and Simulink software, accelerating the pace of engineering and science. Learn more at mathworks.com.
From NPR and WBUR Boston, I'm Scott Tong.
And I'm Sarah McCammon. It's Here and Now. Coming up, reaction from Illinois as the Department of Homeland Security announces a new ICE operation there.
Also, Israel conducts an airstrike on Hamas leaders in Qatar.
Plus, the long-running fight to succeed Rupert Murdoch comes to an end as one of his children prepares to eventually take over his media empire.